Well, thank you again for coming out. My name's Tony Armour. I am the Dallas Film Commissioner, and I'm just going to pass the microphone and let these gentlemen introduce themselves.
My name's Wes Meyers. I am the owner and visual effects supervisor for Burning Tractor Productions here in Deep Ellum, Dallas.
I'm Joey Waldrip, lead visual effects artist and colorist at Charlie Uniform Tango, and excited to be here.
Awesome. I guess to start out, basically you've told us who you are and what your company is, but let's hear a little bit more about, what you actually do, what your services are, what you do individually, and what you do for your company's visual effects post-production is such a broad, overreaching thing. It can be many, many different things, from the reel that we just saw, which is a lot of different things, and that's not even just one or two different things. That's like a million different things in and of itself. So just give us a little bit of a description of yourself, exactly what you do, what your company does.
Sure. So the company is about 8 years old, and we're a full turnkey production company. So we actually do corporate video, we do commercials, we do creative direction, but we specialize primarily in visual effects. And so when it comes to visual effects, we sort of live in the entertainment space. So we're looking at Apple originals, Amazon originals, Netflix originals. What I like to say is we're a smaller company, so we're tier one, but we're at the bottom of the top. So we have a long way to climb, but we've made it sort of to that top level. So for visual effects, what I do at the company is one, janitor, so bathrooms, that. But
for sure, garbage disposal.
Yeah, garbage disposal. Oh, yeah. But no, it's essentially script to finish. So when clients call us, they can start with, here's our film, this is what we want to make. We will help them break down that script, start creating preliminary budgets on how to, what their visual effects may cost in the very end. We work on creative and technical execution. How are we going to, through production, achieve these effects? How are we going to film them? How are we going to plan for them? What's stunts going to do? What's hair and makeup going to do? What's special effects going to do? When do we take over? And then when we get to the production phase and pre-production phase, we're there on all the location scouts. The first day of shooting, we're on set. So we're that technical creative advisor all the way through. And then during filming, we'll actually be doing pulls. So it's like, hey, give me that shot. Let's work this out. Make sure that we're headed the right direction. We'll work those shots. We'll temp those effects. So me as a VFX supervisor on set, I come from an artist background. I was a compositor. I've done motion graphics. I've done color. I've done editorial. I know 3D. So as a creative, I can offer a lot on the fly for those meetings to, one, keep the client comfortable, make sure that we're going the right way. So once the film is done, it goes to editorial, and then when the film is hopefully locked, we like to start visual effects when things are locked so that we don't have changes, because the process is immense. So everything that exists in production and on set exists in our world. So we have digital makeup artists, digital texture artists, digital animators, actors. So every department, essentially, you can copy and paste into the digital world. So once we get to that phase, so editorial's done, all the shots are going to get pulled. We work with the director, the creatives. We go through, we iron out every single visual effect that's needed for that. We work out the color workflow, and then we sort of get the armies going. So it's like, what needs to be rotoscoped? What needs to be match moved? What needs to be painted out? What are the big CG sequences? How many CG assets do we need to create? We have to do it in X amount of time. So what does our amount of people take to get this done? And how do we do it within the budget that we have allotted to do it? And so when I come from set and then back into post-production, I help lead that world to make sure that all of the many, all the different deadlines and all the different tasks are being achieved on time and for the client, how they want them, so that in the end, everything goes back to color, and the colorists are very happy with our work, and everything matches the cameras, and they can deliver the final film. So that's kind of the nitty-gritty, fast-paced rundown of what we do at Burning Tractor.
Great.
All right. So at Charlie Tango, we've been around. This will be our 28th year. We we really base ourselves in the commercial advertising world. We have production, we have directors out of a bunch of different places for our rosters, but our time is condensed. Just this week, I'm on 3 different clients, 3 different jobs. All of them had to ship tonight.
Well, thanks for being here.
Well, yeah, I was able to get it done thanks to my team, and that's one of the things that we really try to do is we obviously need to make sure that the schedule is correct and the time and what we've been given we can get it there. But as a colorist and visual effects artist, it's kind of really easy for me because I'm grading and finishing at the same time. So as I'm grading and there's a sky replacement needs to happen, right? I just do it inside of Flame. So I grade inside of Flame just because I've been in Flame for so long.
And explain Flame, that's a software.
So Flame's an Autodesk proprietary software. It's gone through multiple trajectories. It was smoke and flame and inferno and flare and
there's a theme. I'm sensing a theme around.
So Autodesk is out of Montreal, and that's where I grew up. Not Montreal, but was on Flame, was on Autodesk, and they tried to do luster for once film, I don't want to say died, but when the digital acquisition happened, right, in 2011, we needed to figure out a way that we can figure out how to grade inside of what we already know, right? So Autodesk tried to do luster. They've now killed luster, but what they did was they've moved luster, all of their attributes and everything, all their color grading that they were trying to have a different, platform. They've moved it inside of Flame now. So for me, being able to do 3D compositing, sky replacements, cleanup. Obviously, commercial base cleanup is a massive part of my job, and every day is a different day with it too. Like these 3 jobs were 3 different industries in 1 week. So it was Flame is for me the tool. Allows me to do everything I need it to do, everything my client needs. But we also, we have editorial, we have, so we're a full turnkey post-house production house, but we really focus on, and I know we focus on the art of commercials,
Yeah. You don't have to apologize for that. Commercials are
they
art
really
too. They really are, and
Yeah.
it's really how a lot of directors kind of grow up in the industry, and a lot of people grow up in the industry is in the commercial world. There's a lot of feature film directors who, when they're not directing a feature, that's what they do. That's how they actually make their living is in the commercial world, and then they do the feature because it's what everybody wants. Everybody gets into the business because they want to make movies, and then you have to make a living.
Thank you.
And then you have to make a living, so then you end up doing the commercial world. Is really what it boils down to. And I think everybody in DFW area is very familiar with that because that's what drives the market here. That's how everybody stays employed, basically. So let's talk a little bit about like what a visual effects team looks like, because you do a lot yourself, it sounds like, but on a lot of scale, there's more than one. If you look at the credits of the end of any TV show or film production, it could be hundreds of people just in visual effects, and different visual effects companies all on the same project, again, depending on the size and everything like that. So just talk about a little bit like what that team is like from a something smaller, like a commercial, to, I saw Stranger Things on the reel, right? Like what's a team like when you're doing, that's a VFX heavy show?
Yeah, so it gets pretty massive pretty quick, and a lot is leveraged overseas. So most of the shows that you saw on the reel, we probably had 200 artists all in. So every show we do, we probably minimally it's 200 artists, but it's 160 overseas at one company, another 30 overseas at a different company. We generally average 10 domestically here, and those are sort of the final assemblers. So the way our company operates is we bring the jobs in, we dictate what what disciplines need to be done for each shot, and then those things all get sent out to the appropriate vendors or freelancers, and then all of the we consider this VFX prep work. So this is paint, this is roto, this is match move. So paint, that's there's a guy on the crew standing in the shot, get rid of him. Or we're looking at a car and we can see the entire crew in the reflection, get rid of them. Roto, we want to cut people out. We just did a show, instead of using blue screen, we did black screen. It's a very, very dark environment show. And so it's a roto show. We are not keying a single person out. This is all going overseas for rotoscoping, and we are hiring.
Can you describe a little bit what rotoscoping is?
Rotoscoping, if you go in Photoshop and you get the magic wand tool and it cuts someone out, that's great. We have to do that every frame. And so imagine you have 6 or 7 people that are walking down a path. We have to have them perfectly cut out every single frame. And it takes a lot and a lot and a lot of labor.
You mean AI doesn't do that for you now?
So AI is getting there.
Yeah.
So paint and roto are the first 2 things that AI may be taking over. But currently AI gives us the shapes, but it doesn't give us the splines. So the splines let us manipulate the shapes. Right. So when we use these vendors, we get the shapes so I have a perfect, say, cutout of you, and I can apply that alpha channel and you're cut out. But say they screwed up a little on your arm, or you have halos because you had a bright light back there and we wanted to cheat that in a little bit. I also have the splines to do that. AI can't give us splines. Same thing with a deep fake. A deep fake does a perfect face replacement, but it doesn't give me the tracking data for that face. So I can't instantly swap that face 10 times. I need to rerun the algorithm. Paint, roto, and then match move is either camera tracking. So anytime we're adding CG to a live action shot. So you saw there was a car added to some archival footage there, or there was a building and trees added to whatever that is. We get all the camera data for everything that's being filmed on set, and then we create a digital version of that camera. So we're looking at the film back size, we're looking at the resolution, we're looking at the lenses that we use. We're capturing all that data. We then do distortion charts. This is a very, very important part of CG. So we shoot checkerboards so that we can undistort the kind of the fisheye warble that lenses give. Because if we don't do that, our CG, when it renders, it's like perfect. A cube is a cube, and it'll come out a perfect cube. But we need that cube to bend like the rest of the footage. So we flatten the footage so there's no bend before we do any work. Track it, add the CG, and then the CG gets bent back into it. So those 3 disciplines we send out. If we tried to do that here, we wouldn't be able to get anything done. We wouldn't be competitive. It would take us years to do 50 shots, where we can do 50 to 100 to 200 to 250 shots a week. Wow. And then domestically, the cloud is our biggest friend, and sort of a new wave technology that really started through COVID. So just this week, we're onboarding 10 artists. These artists live in Minnesota, New York, Los Angeles, Georgia, and they all work on virtual workstations. And so we are able to set up our exact same pipeline that we use here on-prem. We can launch that into the cloud once it works. So getting it to work, that's the tricky part. But we can essentially clone machines and deploy artists instantly. This is very, very powerful. Traditionally, in the past, if I hired someone, I would have to buy their computer. These are not cheap, so it's $7,000 computer. Then I have to put maybe $20,000 worth of software on it. So besides that person's salary, I'm having to spend maybe $20,000, $30,000 just to create this machine. Now I can lease software and for $1.50 an hour have a bad to the bone machine in the cloud.
Wow. That's very cool.
And deploy immediately. So this is new for us and our company, and so our goal is to We've already had sort of this overseas large workforce that we're using, but we want to expand here domestically. So we want to become 20 people full-time, 30 people full-time, and so on, and take on a lot more work. So visual effects, like on the entertainment level, it's divvied up between so many vendors. There's a lot of main players. So we were on Stranger Things with probably 10 other companies. We were on Emancipation with 10 other companies. We want Emancipation, all of it. So that's
and that's how you're talking about you're tier one, but you're the bottom of tier one.
Yeah.
And
So
as you grow,
so we're at the bottom. So we're trying to move to like right above the bottom.
Right. And then Joey, talk a little bit about your sort of team and workflow. And do you outsource much since you're more commercial based? And these are obviously much shorter kind of projects that you're doing than say TV or feature. How does that work for you?
Yeah. So over the last 20 some odd years, the industry's changed a lot.
Yeah.
It used to be where creatives were going to one artist, right? So you had to have your kind of reel against other people in your company's reel, and they would choose you, right? They would choose you over the other person, and there was some kind of disconnect for me about 10 years ago in that, where I felt like if my company was going to be successful in visual effects, I needed to build a team. So over the last 10 years, maybe a little more, I finally I have the right people. So I have a lead 3D artist. His name's Connor Adams. So he's kind of in charge of. He's my right-hand man on match moves, right? So inside of Flame, I know we're probably going to get to this, but there are some other tools that do it better. So what I've been able to do is build my team, mentor my team, get people underneath me that are, thank gosh, way better than I am.
That's what a boss is supposed to do, hire people that are more talented than you, and you just point them in the right direction.
Well, or they help me, right? So that's the other part of it, is my team now, we grow together every day, and I'm actually learning new tools due to what they're showing me, because, for me, since I've been doing this for so long, and I'm sorry for saying that, but I kind of get stuck in the same rut of fixes, right? And I know I've done this 10 years ago. This is how I'm going to do it again. And now when I'm showing the shots to some of my team, I have a creative director who's his name's Tony Wan, just one of the most creative people I've ever been around in my life. And they've actually made me better as an artist. So now we've built this really great trust within each other that that we feel with enough time we can do anything, right? We have outsourced. We've actually worked with Burning Tractor on an American Airlines video. We did all the American Airlines safety videos for 20 some odd years. And they kept...
So far, so good.
Yeah, I know. They kept progressively getting better and bigger. And with our team, we're scalable, right? We can hire out and freelance and get people, but we try not to, only because we like to challenge ourselves internally and also budget, right? Like, I'm not going to go hire more people when I know I can get it done. It's going to take me another day and a half.
Right.
Right. If it's going to take me a year, we're not going to do that. Right. We'll figure out another way to be scalable, and we'll get the right team behind us. But the people that I have now, they believe that we can pretty much come up with anything and get anything fixed. And again, a lot of times we're not working on movies. We're not working on episodic. We're not. So commercial base, longer format, 4, 5, 7 minutes. That's a different animal than what they're dealing with, right? Yeah. So the size, we can scale.
It's the
But we
same.
don't-
You're doing the same skill set, doing very similar things, but
Yes.
in a year, you're doing multiples of projects, the numbers of say what you guys are doing at Burning Tractor because they're shorter.
Yeah, and every one of our artists is working on a different project almost every day.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the other part of our post house is we have to schedule time with my 3D guy because he may be making a photorealistic owl, with 17 different feathers, and he has to match how their elbows move, and then I need him to come in and help me get a match move on this crazy 3D track, and for advertising, like I said, a lot of the things that I do, if you see it, then I've messed up. Like that's kind of the trick inside of commercial work is I'm the guy behind the curtain. No, I'm in the dark room, and if you, like I said, if you see it, then I didn't do a good job.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk a little bit about industry-wise right now, really for the last several years, something that's moving forward quickly, and it's starting to happen a little bit in the DFW area, and it'll start to expand more, is the use of virtual production and LED volumes, basically. So a lot of the things that you have done previously in post-production are now essentially becoming pre-production because they have to be done in advance. But it still doesn't eliminate the post-production work that has to be done. So now it's like work in pre-production and work in post-production. Oh, and you have to do it during production itself because you're using the wall. So I don't know how much you guys have gotten to work in the LED volume world yet. Maybe it's come to you later on. It's like, we couldn't get this right. Now you have to fix it because it didn't get shot correctly, because people are still trying to figure this whole thing out. Even Greg Fraser, who many people know, who shot Dune and Batman, we're working on trying to get him on our podcast, but his schedule is very busy. But I had a conversation with him, and he was like, look, I helped develop this stuff, and I don't know how to use it yet. So to hear somebody like that say it, makes everybody else feel a little bit better when it comes to that kind of thing. So that's a very long way to get around to talk a little bit about, what people are doing now with LED volumes and how that relates to what you guys are doing in the visual effects and post-production world.
So when, I guess, Mandalorian was kind of like the precipice of this, so that happened, and it was like, holy shit. I called the bank. I said, I need a $10 million loan. And then I didn't do it. Luckily, I had a kid, so I was like, okay, we're not doing that. But no, the volume is excellent, and it's changing everything. But it has pitfalls, just like every other tool. So, but one of the very cool things, Unreal Engine is the driver. So the best game engine in the world is now sort of crossing paths into the film industry. So all the softwares are starting to integrate. So we use Houdini as our primary 3D software. Houdini Engine and Unreal now have a button where you can essentially go between the two. So where Houdini, if you watch a Harry Potter film or like anything that has badass simulation effects, that's Houdini. And so Unreal can do simulations, but it can't do them like Houdini can. But now we can build, so it's like, I need a snowy world that's like spooling around and it needs to look awesome, but I want to film on the volume. You can create that in Houdini, dump it over to Unreal, and then that'll work on your volume stage. So very cool. And then say we film all of that, but the volume, you can't focus on the screen. Everything always has to be out of focus. You have to be at least 10 feet away because you can see the pixel density. So it's, there's very large pixels on a volume. And so you have limitations. You can never see this beautiful background you created in focus, but now we can go from Unreal back to Houdini and render it through a proper visual effects pipeline so that we can have depth of field, we can emulate the cameras, how we have live action visual effects that looks real, even though it's fully CG. We can do that in our pipeline with kind of an Unreal to Houdini or traditional VFX approach. You have to plan. If you're doing a volume, you have to plan. If you don't get there way before, if you don't build your environments way before, if you don't have camera testing, you can fail and spend a lot of money. And then it ends up coming back to visual effects, and we are rotoing everybody out, and we are replacing those backgrounds. I think personally, like bright environments on a volume look great. But look at this screen here with a little light hitting it. It's never going to be black. A volume is going to have the same problem. So if you're lighting someone, there will be enough bounce light in that thing where it's going to be gammaed up to some degree. And so getting rich blacks, there's certain things with a volume that it's going to, for a trained eye, we'll say that's not real. And if you're looking for not real, then you're great. But if you are looking for real, then that's one of the limitations that you're going to run into. But yeah, pre-production, 100%. You flip, so where visual effects would be done in post, or it's like, we're going to start filming. We have a concept artist drew something great, so we're going to do all these blue screen shots, and we're going to light them from the sun coming from this way, and then later we'll actually build this environment out, and we'll be able to concept and really develop this world. Now we have to do all that beforehand, and that stuff takes time. So if you're going to do a volume shoot, depending on the complexity of your environments or what you want to achieve, you have to pad, a month, 2 months, 3 months. If you're doing a feature, 6 months in advance, so that you can, as like you would with an art department, production designers, build that environment, test that environment, so that when your actors and your directors and everyone's there for the day, it works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly right. It's the pre-concept, right? And to get your creatives to sign off on something early when they're still concepting.
Yeah,
it's a very difficult process. The one thing I've run into when we've shot is color grading on it. Because it looks great. You don't have to do green screen. You don't have to worry about bloom. You don't have to worry about all these things because it's actually really shot. But the LED and the cameras it's not real color. So to be able to grade it, you're actually almost doing multiple passes, which we've actually gotten away from because we don't have to do multiple passes anymore the way we had to on film, on windows, on anything outdoor, anything like that. But it feels like you're having to make sure that you grade the background the way you want it, and then you're actually pulling some kind of key still, even if it's an image key or something inside, just to be able to get your talent the way that they need to look correctly. Yeah. So there is still limitations, but again, there were limitations with digital media, and now where are we with the Ari and the Red and all these other Alexas, all these different cameras that Blackmagics that are coming out, Sony's that 10 years ago I didn't really believe it was going to work because we were working on P2 and we're working on these terrible, but it was infancy, right? So that's the thing I've noticed in the industry is you just keep making sure you're getting better at all your little tools and everything that you can get better at. And at some point, the LED is going to get better. And the cameras, for all I know, they may already have it. There may be a setting now that you can just click it. You're shooting an LED wall, and now it's going to read that, and it's going to be able to give us the ranges, the same depth rate all the way through.
Yeah, and so let me ask a little bit of a nerdy question as far as the walls go. And I know just enough to be dangerous and to break something if I had to, but not to actually do it, and to do it right. So a lot of times on the LED walls, these are coming from different manufacturers. They're all manufactured in the same place in China. Shenzhen's like the only place in the world that basically makes LEDs in general, and so that's where all the volumes come from. But different factories, and so you have some walls where it's virtual production, but it might not be quite as good as it needs to be. And there's all the different pieces that go in. It's the LED components themselves, and it's the processors and all that other kind of stuff. And so you were talking about how on a dark screen, so when these LED volumes, you go dark, you could answer the question as well. That sometimes, depending on the shutter speed of the camera, that you get the banding issue on the LED volume. So, and I think it's a very common issue with LED walls because there are so many different digital cameras that you were talking about and so many then different types of walls. And then is that something that then in post you guys have to go back and fix that, or how difficult, how easy, how hard is that to actually address those banding issues on a wall in post-production? I knew that I said that was a nerdy question. So.
Yeah, we're rotoing it out and we are replacing it.
Okay.
So, it's fixing the edges on the people and get rid of it. And
so you literally have to do as if it was
If it's banding hard, there's not really, AI, so this is where AI is going to come back, and AI may fix some crazy thing like this, but we have some deflickering tools and some different analyzers we could throw on something like that, but...
Never really worked.
Yeah, ultimately, it's like, why try to fix something that's a disaster when we could easily just put something back there that works?
Yeah, so you're just basically... taking it out anyways and then replacing it.
Yeah, and volume, so like you said, so the way the LED panels are made, each volume has to be from the same batch.
Yes. Yeah, because if you bought panels from a company and they delivered to you on Friday and then they built a new batch next Friday and sent that one, the color temperatures are often very different. And you can't put them together. So you have to have all your panels on your wall from the same batch, and so you better have extras then from the same batch as well, because if anything goes bad, you can't just replace it. Put it in the far bottom corner, maybe, but
and they will be obsolete in 2 years, just like computers. So now that volumes are a thing, pixel density, I mean, that's where they're going to end up being OLEDs. Like they'll end up being TVs. If we continue down this path, like the pixels are going to shrink down, and we will focus on them. Yeah. And we're like, oh, that's a bad volume.
And I've seen people cheat the volumes by essentially taking like a 70-inch OLED TV and just putting it like next to them in a car window and shooting the OLED TV and just keeping that a tight shot. But they don't have to have volume, but it's like the indie filmmaker way of faking a volume by using TVs like that and big TVs to be able to do. And almost to a certain extent, you're going to see more rear projection type stuff. Like someone will project on this screen and then set up a little car here, and they're doing sort of this rear projection almost instead of volume stuff as well, as if you can get the 4K or whatever else.
Yeah, we've used the wall for multiple things as well, not just for backgrounds, right? So for print, obviously they work unbelievable. For any automotive that they need to have something in Patagonia, and then they also need something in Spain, and then they want a desert, and then that's perfect for their print. Get your catalog out, get your stuff ready, and it looks great, and it works really, really well. But we've used it for emotional pieces where we actually we film a testimonial, and then we'll turn them around, and on the wall we'll have 100 years of their company passing by, right? So we're not even just using it as well. I don't think it's intended for background. Well, at least it was at first, but there's also different creative ways to use it to get an emotional piece, to surprise someone, right? Instead of having a projector and a light in front of your face, you can get a really well-lit, dramatic moment of trying to get emotion out of someone. And then when they turn around and there's a 200-foot wall and it's their parents, right? Or their story of their life. And then, really great creative graphics, a nice taste that moves you through the piece. It's definitely another tool, and to tell our stories. And that's what, if you think about it as a tool, then that's what it is. It's not going to save us all from green screen. Okay, we're going to have.
That's what everybody thinks.
Right. That's not the way it works. You can't get, the correct sunlight when you need to put someone in a different shot. It's a great tool for what it is now. It's only going to get better as we all get better, right? As we all figure out what camera works better with it. The floor. You still can't show people's feet. Unless that's all really well set designed, and you have a great art department that's going to be matching what you're putting.
Yeah, you basically have to have a 6-inch platform at least to match up to the bottom of the wall, and then cover it with sand or whatever you're doing. And,
Absolutely. Yeah. So we'll all get there. It's just we're not quite there, but this industry moves so fast. 7 months ago, no one even knew what AI was. And now that's every question I get from every intern and every student that's coming to shadow us is, how are you gonna adapt AI into your workflow? And it's like, well, you tell me. You know better than I do.
Yeah.
But we're getting there already. We use AI every day. And that's one of the great things is, condensed schedules, condensed budgets. I don't have...
Yeah, it's not taking jobs away. It's just making your jobs be able to move quicker. Yeah.
Absolutely. Which means I can get through more jobs a day. More clients, more creatives, more happy people coming in, smiling when they leave.
Yeah.
Right? Rather than frustrated because it took me too long. So that's what I use it for, and that's what we use it for.
Well, I could keep going down like a really nerdy path on some of this. But I want to give the audience a chance to ask some questions here and give everybody some time. So how about here?
I'm curious with low budget films. Can you share what a basic package I guess would be? What would be needed for VFX and kind of the budget we would have to keep in mind?
Okay, so for those that couldn't hear, she's asking basically about budgeting for low-budget films for visual effects.
So as a company, when I say that we play in tier 1 space, there was an actor strike, a writer strike, I'm sure everyone's familiar with. Well, guess what? We play in every other space too, and that's what gets us through that world. So for each client and each project, no matter the budget, you may open with this exact question. And so we may come back and be like, well, how much do you have? And then let's reverse engineer to make something work for you. Yeah. So, client dependent, things change. The times are always different. Availability is different. And we essentially deal in art. And so, you can buy a painting for, right? So, but what we would need, we would look at your script. We would look at your pre-production planning. You would have an idea of, hey, I think I want to do this effect, or I need a mouse to, die, or something that you can't do in real life.
Well,
it was visual effects when we killed the possum. No, so but that's essentially, you would just share with us your creative, and we would work with you to find a solution that works for both parties. And consulting, when we're just discussing it, there's no fees there. So this is just hey, email, let's set up a call, we'll look at your script, we'll break it down. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You're not going to get billed for that. So
well, and it could be one of those things too where it's well, you can't get 100 shots, but maybe you can get 10.
Right.
And what are the most important 10 shots that you need for your project or something like that to actually make the difference? And then everything else, you're just going to have to try and do the best you can, or don't have visual effects shots or something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like Wes said, working on something, a low budget film, we still want everyone to execute, right? That's the biggest failure of all of us is we're great on ideas and terrible on execution, right? So if you just do it, and you'll learn even more by just doing your first one, and then from there you'll figure out, okay, well, this didn't work. I needed a visual effect on this. Then your next one, you'll already start thinking about it. And then you'll talk to us about it, and then you'll give us a call. And, if you need supervision, or if you just want to talk us through how you're going to do it, that's what we want to do, is help everyone get there. And we fail all the time. It's just hidden, right? So no one sees it. What's the one? You know, no one ever wants to see the sausage being made, right? But to me, it's the first conversation of doing it. You know, just do it, and then do it again, and then you'll just keep learning from it. And then once you know your first one is great, and the second one's great, and the third one's great, and then you just keep going on the fourth one. You're like, okay, well now I've learned, and I know who to talk to, and then then we can start really digging into, okay, because sometimes you won't need heavy visual effects, right? A lot of times it's just that little touch, that little touch, that little cleanup, that little art, that little, even a lens flare in a different shot, right? That changes the emotion of what you're doing in your movie. So for me, it's just do it and call us, and we'll help you. We'll walk you through it, and then once you've done it and you've sent it to someone or one of your friends, and then send that shot to us or to me, and I'll look at it and I'll talk to your friend about it and say, hey, this is what worked and this is what didn't. So next time they're better for you, right? So, but like you said, it's the backing into it. It's with scheduling and producers, I can get 3 shots for you done in 2 weeks. Well, you need it done in 4 days. I don't know if I could get to that, but I've built a team of also young artists that would love to do that kind of work.
Yeah, so maybe you'd be able to recommend, say, maybe this isn't right for us, but I know so-and-so that used to intern for us who's started his own new little shingle over here that might be able to help you out.
And those are the people that need to grow as well, right? So to be able to build the community of artists and directors and writers and everything, I always feel that the community is the strongest part of our industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To piggyback off that, visual effects comes from special effects.
Yeah.
So visual effects didn't really exist, and it was camera tricks in the beginning. And so that's where we can also help counsel. It's like, hey, I want to do these visual effects. It's like, well, if we, say, I've made people fly a number of different ways, and I've done it with like huge stunt teams on blue screens with wires and giant fans, and we've also done like with a bucket and a leaf blower.
Exactly.
So, and the results were
they look great.
Similar, right?
They look great.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a really good point, is that sometimes people think, I have to do these as visual effects shots, but sometimes the practical
camera
is going to work even better. I did a short film many years ago, and we used prop guns and blanks and things like that, and we wanted the bullet hits on a tree. Well, we used paintball guns with dust balls. And so it was something actually hitting the tree and poof, coming off of it. And we didn't have to go in visual effects and add that later. And the actors were able to react against that really well. And it was a practical
And paintballs are cheaper.
A lot cheaper.
Right?
And if they're a lot more fun on set to have your effects guy with the paintballs shooting at your actors and as they're running kind of thing. So
when I'm on set, I'm like my own devil's advocate, because like half the time I'm like, whoa, what if we just filmed this?
Do this,
right? I don't want to. Let's leave that off.
Do this.
Plate. Let's just we could do this and get it.
Yeah, you could almost go back and take a look at what did they do in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s for some of these effects, because there were still effects.
They killed the possum.
Yeah, they did. They threw horses off of cliffs, but a lot of effect shots, like just figure out what the old school way was of doing these effects. And sometimes it's a lot more fun to figure that out when you're actually shooting, when you're doing low budget projects too.
When I started, it was more of elements, right? So all my elements were shot. Everything was on film. If we needed to add steam to a coffee cup, right? We would shoot it, and we'd shoot it on black, and we would match move it, and then I would be able to key that and Luma key it and drop it in and then track it. And I'm not saying that's better or worse. I'm just saying there are still great ways to shoot your own elements where you figure out, how to shoot it. Because because for me, still, elements are the best. If I can get multiple plates, multiple passes, multiple things shot on film, same camera, same lens, same lighting, same everything, then I'm really just layering things, right? I'm just making it the same thing together. So yeah, for me, elements are still number one, but that's why I have amazing 3D artists.
You know, there's one visual effects thing that still bothers me that they somehow cannot get right yet that I have not seen, and it always takes me out of a project whenever I see it. Is if it's cold somewhere and they do the breath. And I'm like, just don't do the breath at all.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have noticed it. But now that you put in the fake cold breath coming out, and that's the first thing I see, then I'm like, why the fake cold breath?
Don't do it.
Just don't even do it at all.
ActionVFX.com, they just did a series of breath plates. Very photorealistic, shot with red.
Yeah, but it bugs me. Anyways, that's neither here nor there.
You can convey the story with color.
Right.
Right? You know it's cold.
Yeah. Why do you need the fake
breath?
Okay. That's just a pet peeve. So, sorry.
You've already talked about Flame and Houdini and Unreal. What are some other software that you use in your companies?
So we specialize in live action visual effects. So we're not doing like Pixar movies. We're working in filmed shows. So that's the gem. So Nuke is the primary. Everything runs through Nuke. Nuke Studio is also integral to that process. And I'll sort of just quickly debrief sort of like an org chart for how we work. So the movie's filmed. Generally, the color house or us will do the pulls. So what a pull is, it goes from the raw footage. We work with linear EXRs. So there's if it's in red log, it goes to a log to linear conversion EXR sequence. We get all of that footage. We drop that into Nuke Studio, and we apply shot codes to all of that footage. So originally it'll be like AO39_CO1, and there's like 500 of those. So we don't want that. We want it to just be like, movie 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, so that we can organize it. So Nuke Studio builds our entire project in folder structures. And then it'll also build all of our Nuke projects. From the Nuke projects, that's where match move can happen. That's where paint work can happen. That's where rota can happen. That's where we'll do all the final compositing for everything. But that sort of initial setup from Nuke is how backplates for Houdini are made. And so, we work in a specific, like we use, it's called ACES color space. ACES color space just puts everything in a nice, pretty way to view it. And then our CG software renders in that same space so that when we take footage from the camera, we put it into ACES, we make a Houdini backplate, we can eye drop the lights and drop something in there, and then those render into linear space, and it all comes back, and we almost don't have to color correct it. Like, we get perfect CG out of the gate. So
everybody get that? You're gonna you're all going home. You're gonna be able to replicate that, no problem. You can do exactly.
So Nuke, very important. Houdini, the render we use is Redshift. Redshift is a GPU render. It's very fast. So for the artist level, it's quick to see results, so we can change lighting and things work very quickly. If you are working at scale, and the great thing now is everything's online. There's tutorials online. There's now indie versions of all this software, but cloud rendering is huge, especially in 3D. So, you could make a 3D project, try to render it on your computer, and one shot may take 24 hours, right? It's 5 minutes a frame, 10 minutes a frame. Now in the cloud, you can hit render and you get 300, if it's 300 frames, you get one computer per frame and you get your shot back in 10 minutes. And a normal person could afford this. You're getting charged $1, maybe a frame. So if you really want it bad and spend $300, you get it back in 10 minutes. But yeah, so Nuke, Houdini, Redshift, Maya, very important. Maya is still the animation king. So all of our character rigging, character animation goes through Maya. The Adobe suite, it's great. Premiere still works great. After Effects, super powerful. Great compositing tools. It's much, much cheaper than Nuke. And then you have all the integrations with Photoshop and Illustrator. So it's like if you're an Illustrator person and you need to accept especially in the commercial world, it's like, hey, I designed this in card. It needs to animate. You can take the Illustrator files, those dump into layers in After Effects, animate them. Works great. DaVinci Resolve, 100%. Use that all the time. So that's our sort of main.
I've heard a lot of people are actually going away from even editing in Premiere to editing in DaVinci. I know several like long-time editors who have just dropped Premiere and are editing in DaVinci now. And DaVinci is free.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, DaVinci is free. So DaVinci is great. So in our space with entertainment, it's DaVinci and Avid. So Avid still
Yeah, I
has
don't
a
know
lot
how
of-
Avid's still around.
It's still around. Like, I'm like, what the?
My business partner's an avid guy.
Oh, sorry.
Just from the standpoint that it's been around for so long and people have forgotten about it almost. But
ALEs are cool.
yeah.
They have a lot of metadata, but yeah.
Well,
anyways.
but then what happened? What happened to Final Cut? Like 16 years ago.
7 is still the.
Yeah, Final Cut. When they changed from 7, and then like everybody just abandoned it in droves. Like we can't do Final Cut anymore. And that was the standard for sort of industry editing was Final Cut, and everybody's like, well, I guess we'll use something else now. And that's where Premiere basically kind of took over after that.
Yeah. So again, for our 3D, it's Maya, it's Houdini, it's Nuke. We run obviously my flame rooms are flame artists, but we use the Adobe Creative Suite every day. Our motion design still uses Cinema 4D a lot because Cinema 4D and After Effects.
You have a very expensive list of software you're gonna have to buy now.
I work for a VFX company,
Ah.
and this is more information than I've gotten.
Oh no! Well, we're glad you're here.
And this was free.
So some of my team's up there, and I learned Cinema 4D this year, and they call it Fisher Price 3D.
Oh, for sure.
And I loved it. I was like, dude, I was like, I'll put all y'all under the table. Let's go, But anyways, I love it. I think it's
Yeah.
great.
I'm sure we have. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was gonna keep the questions going from the audience here, so I can see past the blinding light over here.
So for when it comes to shooting for After Effects and everything, from the point of view of a director, what makes your guys' job easier when it comes to the pre-production, the post-production, when you're collaborating on a project together?
Well, for me, the biggest thing about a successful VFX or really any project is communication early. The earlier I can get involved, even when creative is still a part of it, that instantly, you can almost smell the project's going to work better. You run into projects when they're just handed to you that you had no conversation, and they've done little things, I don't want to say wrong, but challenged, that are just going to take you longer, right? And I'm talking a 4-minute conversation with the director or with the creative or with the DP about, hey, this is what we're trying to achieve. How are you going to shoot it? Can we talk about it? Just to communicate, because we have seen everything. So even just the small thing of shooting a phone, everyone's now touching a phone in every commercial, right? And they shoot it wrong all the time. And, they want natural reflections, right? But then they put a blue screen on it, so you're not going to get any natural reflections. And then they shoot it on a blue screen on a blue sky and so everything outside isn't going to work. And then they use a woman with 2 blue rings that's touching it, right? So it's just all these tiny little elements of just, don't do that. Shoot it on black. Don't put tracking marks on it because, PF track, Mocha, all those things now, we can just get a planar track. No matter what we can just, G-mask their hands out. So just don't put tracking marks on a black screen, because a black screen, you can just screen back on top, and then you're getting the natural reflections of your environment. And it's very simple, and it's a once a month conversation with directors on how to do it.
So if you're shooting a phone, like if this is a very common thing to be done all the time, wouldn't it be simpler just to shoot live whatever you want on the phone?
They can't change it.
Right.
Correct. You can't change it. But
people
if you
generally,
planned enough in advance,
if you planned enough in advance, yes.
you just know what you're doing.
We're not on a
See?
volume.
Now-
We're on a
Now you're talking.
and if you've ever worked with an ad agency,
Yes. That's all the
if
explanation.
anyone's
needed.
here from one
Yeah,
of those
sorry.
places. Oh, no.
We love you.
Previs. So that's the other thing. So if obviously there's the technical with if we're shooting green screen, like don't wear green. There's that type of stuff. But especially in commercial work or difficult sequences, before we're going to spend all this money on all this gear to do it for real, we have phones that can shoot great video now. We didn't have that a long time ago. So we can actually previs and edit and assemble the mock spot or the mock cheat or the mock whatever you want. And if you want to work on it with us, have us put something together. But that way we have an exact shot list, an exact plan of action. And then when we get to set, we're going home at 5. Like we're going to finish early and no overtime and everyone's happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Any questions from this side over here somewhere? Yeah, right here.
Just a quick technical question about phone thing. How do you deal with motion blur against green screen or against, like
Yeah.
the phone? You have like someone's finger moving too fast.
Yeah.
It blurs a little bit.
Sure. So the compositing software now is excellent. And so say you have like you said, a black screen looks great. That's going to be the best bang for your buck all the time. We have a numerous different types of keyers. So like, if you look at my hand on top of my pants, that's obviously going to key, for me. For some people, it may not, but it just depends on what you're working with, the environment. But motion blur, say it's even on a blue screen, and you get those really nasty purple edges and all that. We have spill killing technology. If it's super nasty and we can't get it, then we'll literally rotor the edge and make it the color that it needs to be. And we'll take care of it. But the shutter speed of the camera, we emulate in post.
Yep.
And so we'll look at your shutter speed. And so if it's an action thing and you want a faster shutter and everything's really sharp, when we're doing VFX, we are very consciously looking at that and making sure that our effects have that same motion blur applied to them. So if it's in the phone, we're making sure that matches. Because if it doesn't, it's like, oh, that's not real.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Is it better to shoot at a higher, sharper shutter angle against green screen and then blur it later?
100%. 100%. Yeah, get your shutter speed super, really crisp. So when you're getting there, you're not getting any of the blur. And then, like Wes said, we can add and we can match the motion blur, but we can't take it away, right? So we can always add it, but we can't take it away. So once it's already there, then it's almost like, okay, well, let's take his arm off, literally,
Put an arm back on.
and go put another arm back on and track his motion, and then get really good edges, and then add our own motion blur again. So it's just another step of, we can fix it, but that means you're paying for us to do something there rather than, more beauty passes, more things that are going to make your movie or commercial better. We're spending our time on motion blur when all you had to do is, shoot it with a higher.
Better to overcrank then and give you more frames?
1,000,000,000%. Yeah, if you shoot it 60, 90, 120, we can always match
You
the.
can get rid of frames.
Absolutely. That's exactly it.
Great. More questions. What time we got? How long have we been chatting? We're good. Couple more minutes. We're good. Okay, right here.
And then as far as I know especially on the phone being like a hot point or a button kind of topic, are there any other things that you're like, this one came in again and we're doing this again, for like the 15th time today? Any like very common things you get from footage that you just are kind of pain points or not frustrations? What's the word? Pet peeves. There we go. Yeah. Any kind of pet peeves that are common?
No, because we have to make a living. Yeah, I mean, obviously there are the pitfalls of production, and production is working at a very fast pace. and it spends a lot of money, and it's a high octane environment. So people are going to make mistakes. This gentleman here is wearing glasses, and I see the reflection of this screen
Big
in
time.
his glasses, and I'm like,
My
well,
apologies.
yeah. So it's we run into things, and so there's, whenever, it's like, oh, we're gonna do a cool guy in sunglasses scene. It's like, well, we're gonna paint that out
Big time.
because the camera's gonna be in it in every shot. It's unavoidable. And so, but that's part of the service that we provide. So does it get annoying? Yes. As a business owner, no. So
Yeah.
It keeps you employed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. Absolutely. Today I was just working on a automobile commercial, and obviously cameras are in every reflection, right? It's just part of it. So you just learn how to get rid of them. By the project that's coming in what you're going to be dealing with, right? A food shoot. You know how much time you're going to spend working on food. That's their product, and that's our job, right? And production's job is to get them out of production and then into us. So they're moving so fast that there are always, out of focus shoulders that are in a blue screen. It's like, oh, why is he out of focus? Just take a step to the left one time, and he's out of the blue screen. But they don't have to think about that. That's what we think about. So it's just it's an everyday challenge of every project, just knowing what's coming in and already being prepared on, I've done this for 25 years. I know what a car shoot's going to look like, and I know I've got to make all the windows black. I've got to make sure there's no drivers. I've got to make sure there's no reflections. I've got, so it's just part of what we do.
I'll say another thing on that is, depending on the types of shows or what we're doing, our ultimate goal is not to stifle your creativity.
For sure.
So if you want to do something that kind of sucks for us, but is what you really, really want, do it.
Yeah.
Our life can suck. It's fine. If we can't service the creatives that hire us, then we shouldn't be doing what we're doing.
I think that's a great point. More questions? Right here.
So obviously you guys have been doing it for a while. So you don't have to mention like company names, but what's like the most fun project that you guys worked on? That's like, I can do this for free. This is fun.
The most fun project.
The one we're doing right now. But in all honesty, it is the one we're doing right now. I can't talk about it too much, but we're doing an action film with aliens and outer space stuff, and it is just like very 80s action film, and it's super cool, and I'm excited for when it comes out in a little bit. But it's sort of one of those dream scenarios where we got put into a creative position within the film as well, so we're also producing partners in it.
That's awesome.
It's super fun.
Wow,
Another one, just like, you saw Stranger Things. That was fucking cool. That was like, did we get credit? No, we didn't. We were hired by a VFX company that hired us, and we're never talked about. But it came through the studio, and that was, as far as like being something iconic, I was like, wow, we made it, and let's keep going. But very, very cool.
I built my career really early on Chick-fil-A. I did every Chick-fil-A commercial for 12 years that you've seen. Every time you saw the cows, I was in LA in the shoots, in the shot, because, making them move with monofilament on their ears, and I had to get rid of all that, and we had to hobble them every time because, they couldn't hurt any of the actors, and then making their heinies move to dance. Every time you saw those cows, I did it for 12 years. So all the Peach Bowl, everything. It was a huge challenge, but for me it was more about the people. The people that I got to work with were wonderful. My team is always, for me, the best around. for me, the projects that come in are all fun because I get to see crazy talented people every day come up with a solution, right? Like, we don't believe in problems. We believe in challenges and we believe in solutions. And watching, people that have interned at Tango, well, I interned at my company. So 24 years ago, I was the intern. I was the mail guy. I was the one that was, sending everything out. And then with great people around me, I grew. But that's, to me, the most inspiring thing is every project coming in and watching my team tirelessly go, all right, let's do it, and figure out a way. But that's the most inspiring thing to me. So, and I know that's probably super corny, but every project is awesome. And it really is, because they all have different challenges. And watching people's careers and watching growth over the years of watching them get better and better and better. And then now they're teaching me Nuke, right? Because Nuke is super powerful. So, I've been Flame for 24 years. And now just last year, I started working in Nuke Studio because I'm like, oh my gosh, the tools inside of this are really great. I'm rambling.
That's all right. So we'll do two more questions and wrap it up. So 2 more questions. Anyone? Okay, right here.
Do you guys do any type of sound design work as well?
Sound design.
Anyone stand in hand with visual effects and something?
Yeah. So inside of Tango, we have all of our editors are musicians. So they do all their sound design inside of their edits, either Premiere or Avid. And then we have 3 engineers, and one of them's a composer. So once our edit gets approved in the sound design inside of our AAF, so I don't even remember what we bring them now, but the audio guys will do all the sound design. They'll do Foley. They'll do any kind of sound that needs to happen. And like I said, we also have composers or a composer, and he comes up with really great original music. And so yeah, we try to give them everything. We don't want them to go anywhere else, right? So if we can give them everything and still have lunch and breakfast and dinner with us, and then a cocktail at 6 o'clock, and they've gone through our editorial, motion design, me, color, our 3D team, and our audio, like, that's such a win, and they're just going to want to be with us because they know they can trust us. So yes, we do sound design.
We should start a band. We could be so nerdy.
Yeah.
We work in absolute silence. So yes, we do some sound design, but visual effects with what we're working with, it's generally image sequences, and so they'll tell us, like, on frame 35, there's a sound hit. Make us feel it, and we'll do what we need to do. But we're doing a film right now, and it has a bunch of audio-driven effects. And so we have a speaker light that needs to animate every time somebody speaks, and it speaks 200 times. And so we have to export that audio out, and then in Nuke it has a tool called the audio read node. And what it does is it looks at the waveform and it creates an animation spline based off it. Can we hear it? Nope. But we see it doing the thing, and then we use that to drive our animation. So on the shot to shot to shot level, Nuke doesn't have audio playback at all. So it's very quiet. It's just
So you can listen to whatever you want while you're headphones.
Some people are a little louder than others, but yeah.
All right. Was that 2 questions or 1 question? One. Okay, last one right here.
So, if you could go back in time.
If you could go back in time.
One thing that you wish you would have known when you first started, what would it be?
So the question was, if you could go back in time and tell yourself one thing before you started, what would it be?
Python.
That's a software. It's not an actual snake.
Right? Yeah. It's not a snake. So my job now is the company owner. I was an artist, and I'm an artist. I'm a musician. I'm an artist. That's what I want to do. I don't want to install software. I don't want to write scripts. I don't want to build clouds. You know what I do right now? I install software. I build clouds. I write scripts. And if I knew Python, I could do that much better. I always knew I wanted to be a businessman, but the technical behind our tools, as creatives, the more we read the manual and the more we can learn about the tools that we're using, it's going to enlighten your creativity. And so I wish, 10 years ago, I had realized that fact like I do now, and the power and the potential, especially in the youth, like if they dive into the tech behind just, the creation, just everything.
Yeah.
So know the code, not just how to use the software.
Yeah. Mine would be don't take it personally. Yeah. Because I feel every time I color grade, I feel like especially with a new client, I feel like I'm on a blind date, right? Like they're walking in my room and I'm showing them what I think it should look like, right? And they're gonna either love it or hate it. But guess what? That's their job, right? And don't take it personally. And you can learn from that too, right? You can learn what creatives, what job you can push, and what job you can't, right? Like if you're doing, a big pharma job, you can't push it, right? You can't get a look. You can't go heavy highlights. You can't go dramatic. You can't, right? So you kind of, and if you show it to them, that's your fault, right? So just don't take it personally, and just keep putting yourself out on the projects that you feel you can push, and push it. And I really learned how to push it on music videos. So I did a lot of music videos early, but there wasn't a color space that I had to match because it's broadcast. My reds didn't have to be 90%. My yellows didn't have to be 87%, right? So all these things didn't have to work. So all my buddies that were in bands and they're shooting all over, that's where I learned how to push the envelope and then know how far I can push it, especially when it's business, right? So you always just, I always have to pull it back a little when I'm with creatives. Yeah.
All right. Well, good final question. Well, thank you everybody for coming out tonight. Thank the two of you for being here as well. And so next Wednesday, we have our last workshop of this series. So we've got Alex Vanover, who is the drone pilot that did all of the drone work for Michael Bay's ambulance. And he's from Dallas and is a world champion drone racer, does the FPV drones, basically. And so it's not your grandfather's drone workshop. It's a much different type of drone flying that he does. And we actually hired him to shoot some stuff for the film commission that we have on our YouTube channel, just some cool stuff downtown. And he literally flies his drone at like 100 miles an hour. And he'll tell some great stories about working with Michael Bay and some of the shots that they got with him. So come out next week for that workshop. It'll be great. And then we'll do another round of these in March. And I think the March ones that we're going to do are going to be all acting focused. We're going to do a stunt workshop and then a talent agent and a casting director workshop in March. So giving you guys a little bit of something different all the time. So thank you so much for coming out. Appreciate it.